From MTN News, this is Montana This Morning.
Good Tuesday morning. It's 6 o'clock. Welcome to Montana This Morning. I'm Victoria Hill. Thank you so much for starting your day with us. And good morning to Miller here with a look at our weather for this Tuesday. Another hot day for us?
Well, it's gonna be warmer than normal, but it won't be as hot as yesterday. So we have a bit of a cool down, but we're not done with the possibility of seeing record heat yet. Now, yesterday it was warm to hot, very, very smoky. We're still seeing the dense smoke out there this morning. We anticipate the wind starting to come in and blow that smoke away. So the air quality today will be better than yesterday. It won't be perfect today or tomorrow. And then maybe by Thursday, that smoke will try to come up back in. You can see that smoke there at the surface, courtesy of the Stockman Bank weather cam. 54 right now at the airport, humidity at 55%. Winds out of the west now at about 7 miles an hour. So there'll be west-northwest as we go along today to help with that smoke. High yesterday of 91, we got down to 58. It was windy at times yesterday, had a top gust of 30 at the airport. I don't think we're going to see that today. The winds are lessening, but Miles City could see a gust up to about 20 miles an hour, especially if you're east-northeast of Billings, a better chance to see maybe some of those gusty winds. And of course along the foothills as well. Not really much rain that we've seen so far this month. We're well over 3 inches in the hole for the year, so we got some work to do in terms of the drought conditions. Not a whole lot of rainfall in the forecast, but we could see some changes as we get into the latter part of the week and into the first part of the weekend. Temperatures out there right now, mainly in the 50s, got some 40s as well. Highs today, you see a lot more 80s across the board as we cool down briefly. 83 today here in Billings with lots of sunshine to get us there on this National Another Look Unlimited Day. That's a mouthful.
Take another look at your items, decide what you want to keep and what you want to get rid of. And if there's anything you want to get rid of, maybe check and see if a friend or family member wants it first, or then you can donate it to a local charity.
Absolutely, yeah. Just don't put it out there on the street and to have the trash take it up.
Yeah, exactly.
Do something. There's some really good stuff out there that you know. What is it? Another man's trash and another man's treasure.
Another man's treasure. Yeah. And I'm just hearing that we think we might have the space station on the iCam. I was curious if we were going to be able to see it. It's right in our viewing zone right now.
See if we have that.
Where?
There it is.
That bright thing moving?
Look up. You see it? See how it's moving?
Yeah.
Oh, just went off the screen.
Bye-bye.
Yes. So you have about 4 more minutes. It's moving from west-northwest to east-southeast. There you go.
Move the camera a little
so
more.
That is the International Space Station. Great job with our cam there.
You know what? I've always wanted to see the space station like with my own eyes. And that's the camera adjusting if anyone's like, what's happening to the world? It's just the camera adjusting. But I've always wanted to look up and see it.
There
so
it is.
I'm going to walk away. I'm going to go look outside.
Okay.
And you can read the first block of news.
Yeah. Are you serious? You really want me to do that?
No, it's I won't do that to you. I guess I'll just have to wait.
Next comes the zombie plague after I read them. It's the end of the world as we know it, folks. My goodness.
All right, Miller. Well, I'm going to clear my throat and jump into some news.
All right,
Thank you. We begin with the latest on the pandemic. The new variant is here in Montana. In fact, it's now spread to 49 states across the U.S. Nebraska is the only state without a reported case of the newly discovered strain of COVID-19. An article by Newsweek reports there are 10 or fewer people infected with the new variant in Montana. Those with the World Health Organization now say the variant may have the potential to resist vaccines. They also said it has the ability to spread quickly. Despite its presence in most states, the new variant is not even close to becoming the dominant strain in the U.S. And public health officials are bracing for another possible COVID-19 surge after the long Labor Day weekend. Many Americans traveled to mark the unofficial end of summer. Airports were busy, even though the CDC warned unvaccinated people to stay home. The TSA says the number of passengers was just 14% less than the last pre-pandemic Labor Day in 2019. In the next 2 weeks, Montanans will be submitting proposed maps for our state's 2 new congressional districts for 2022. It's the first step toward a 5-member commission drawing the actual boundaries by November. But MTN chief political reporter Mike Dennison has been doing some map drafting of his own, looking at possible proposals that could come before the commission. He brings us a preview of these plans and what some of the redistricting commissioners think of them.
Most district drawers are looking at an eastern and western district, somewhat similar to what we had 30 years ago before we lost a district and became a single statewide district. But if you draw a dividing line similar to the prior old two districts stretching from Glacier County in the north down to Yellowstone Park, that western district will have almost 616,000 people, which is 74,000 too many, because the two districts must be roughly equal in population. So, how to fix that? One possibility is putting most of Helena and Lewis and Clark County into the eastern district, making things almost even population-wise. Or you could split off parts of Bozeman, or put all of Gallatin County into the Eastern District, and then most of Great Falls into the Western District. But Districting and Apportionment Commissioner Joe Lamson, a Democrat, says these proposals create two Republican-leaning districts, and that he wants to create one district that is competitive between the two major political parties.
We heard loud and strong for Montanans that when it came to the congressional districts, they would like one of those districts to be competitive.
Republican Commissioner Dan Stusek says making one district politically competitive is discretionary and should not be a top priority.
That is not one of the Commission's mandatory criteria, nor is it in our Montana Constitution or state law. And in fact, the concept of competitiveness inherently requires you to look at political data, which, as the public well knows, is what people use to gerrymander districts.
A proposal Democrats are eyeing is making Flathead County and Kalispell part of the Eastern District. You're left with a southwestern Montana seat, which would include Missoula, Butte, Hamilton, and Bozeman. To even up the population between the two districts, though, you'd have to add Jefferson, Broadwater, Park, Sweetgrass, and Stillwater counties to the Western District. Or if you want to put Flathead, Lincoln, and Sanders counties into this so-called Eastern District, you add Great Falls and Cascade County to the Southwestern District and drop the Jefferson to Sweetgrass link. In both of these plans, the Southwestern District is almost evenly split among Democratic and Republican-leaning voters.
We tend to favor districts that keep Gallatin, Helena, Missoula, Butte, Silver Bow, sort of that area that has a lot of common interests. I assure you, this is not going to be a deep, dark blue district. It's going to be a competitive district. It means it's going to be 50-50, and then the voters will decide whether they want to, which candidate they want to have represent them in Congress.
Stusek, however, says he doubts that's something that he or voters in northwestern Montana would support.
I think that would sacrifice elements of compactness and would inherently be a kind of gerrymandering and much different from what Montana has historically seen in our congressional districts to reach a political goal.
And there's another possibility that may or may not be considered, creating a South and North Montana district. A North district could include Kalispell, Missoula, Great Falls, and Helena, while the Southern district could stretch from Hamilton all the way to Sidney and include Billings and Bozeman. Politically speaking, these two are decidedly Republican-leaning districts. The five-member commission will pick several finalist plans on October 5th to consider, and after public hearings, make its decision just 25 days later. It may come down to a tie-breaking vote by the commission's nonpartisan chairwoman. At the Capitol, Mike Dennison, MTN News.
Anyone can submit proposed maps to the commission at mtredistricting.gov. In Helena, a new report shows the Chaudere Children's Hospital may be at fault after a teenage patient took their own life there. MTN's John Riley breaks down the state's findings and Chaudere's response.
In May, a teen under the care of Chaudere died by suicide at the residential treatment facility for children with mental illness and other psychiatric problems. The suicide comes a year and a half after another incident that raised concerns about patient safety at Chaudere, where a patient died when they were struck by a vehicle after escaping and fleeing from the facility onto the interstate. An investigation into the incident by DPHHS found inadequacies with the hospital's staffing situation and monitoring procedures that contributed to the death by suicide. Specifically, the report said, quote, "The facility has failed to ensure patient safety as evidenced by repeat occurrences of inadequate supervision," end quote. The report raises concerns of a lack of adequate staff to supervise patients, 15-minute monitoring checks not being regularly followed, and staff burnout. Chaudere told MTN in a statement, "We are deeply saddened by this loss. It is our top priority as a children's hospital that specializes in providing comprehensive psychiatric care that we do everything in our power to care, heal, and inspire hope for our patients." Investigators interviewed 25 Shodair staff members and said staff expressed extreme concern for both patient and staff safety, including inconsistent orientation for new employees who have direct contact with patients. Addressing staffing issues, Shodair said, quote, "We do not take the loss of a patient lightly and can ensure that our team has sufficient staffing for patient needs and followed safety protocols. Following the incident, we took immediate action to put additional precautions in place, including updating our policies, increasing patient-to-staff ratios, reducing our census, enhancing training, and implementing strategic practices to heighten safety measures within our hospital." The hospital said they also had outside agencies investigate the incident and declared the hospital was not negligent. The DPHHS report also said Shodair did not follow proper procedure for reporting the death to the state and destroyed documentation related to the incident. Shodair has updated its reporting procedures to ensure compliance and document retention. Shodair noted that the documents destroyed were assignment sheets outlining breaks and other common check-ins that were regularly shredded every couple weeks and had no correlation with patient records. Reporting in Helena, John Riley, MTN News.
Thank you so much, John. Today, President Joe Biden will visit New York and New Jersey to survey the damage left by last week's storms. At least 50 people died in the Northeast after the remnants of Hurricane Ida triggered flash flooding across the region. Yesterday, the president declared a major disaster in the two states, clearing the way for federal aid to the area. The disaster declarations will allow individuals to receive funding for temporary housing and home repairs. And real estate experts say supply and worker shortages caused by the pandemic means the recovery from Hurricane Ida will take a lot longer. 93% of construction companies complained of supply shortages and 74% experienced worker shortages. That survey was taken before the storm hit the Gulf Coast and moved into the Northeast. The Labor Department reports combined prices for building products jumped more than 13% the first half of this year. The average normal increase is about 1%. On September 11, 2001, terrorists hijacked American Airlines Flight 77 and then flew it into the heart of America's military, the Pentagon. 20 years later, a couple of the survivors and the attack are carrying on the legacy of their fallen soldiers, sailors, airmen, and Marines killed in the attack. CBS's Natalie Brand has a story from the Pentagon.
You had basically every type of emergency vehicle and the sirens from that, and then on top of that just a really acrid smell from the burning jet fuel. And to be honest, most of my memories are a little bit fragmented because I was only 3 years old at the time.
Second Lieutenant Hannah Bourne's memories of September 11, 2001 may be fragmented, but the impact lasting. She and her infant sister Heather were inside the Pentagon Daycare Center at the time of the attack.
Service members showed up at the door and started loading infants into cribs and then just carried the cribs like half a mile to the river.
Her mother, now retired Brigadier General Dana Bourne, was serving at Bolling Air Force Base at the time.
You know, our world changed. And it took us a while to realize that, I think, after 9/11, that there's no going back, right? That things have changed.
Also changed the lives of those who served and those left with the trauma of that day. As a child, Hannah drew pictures of what she experienced following the attack and instinctively comforted her sister when her dad brought her to a spot near the Pentagon to try and explain what happened.
Her younger sister, who at 4 months old really was just dealing with, sadness, who knows where that came from, but she was comforting.
Both daughters now committed to military service themselves. Lieutenant Bourne with the Air Force, Midshipman Heather Bourne currently at the Naval Academy.
The biggest takeaways that my sister and I have had have just been from witnessing firsthand how people show up every day and commit themselves to a larger purpose and do what the nation asks of them, but also do so much more.
Lieutenant Bourne, who is completing a graduate program at Georgetown University this year, hopes to one day fly rescue missions.
What is it about rescue missions?
I don't know, there's probably something innate there about just the gratitude that my sister and I and my family have for the service members who had the awareness to come help rescue us during 9/11 and maybe wanting to give back in a more direct way.
Lieutenant Bourne says every 9/11, she and her sister reflect on what they can do to honor the legacy of the lives lost and the sacrifices made over the past 20 years. Natalie Brand, CBS News, Arlington, Virginia.
Military leaders shut down the Pentagon's daycare center following the 9/11 attack. Many 9/11 first responders still face serious health issues, and the timing for those men and women may have played a factor in their long-term health. Researchers say emergency crews who were first on the scene were 30% more likely to develop some kind of lung disease. Those conditions included lung inflammation and emphysema. 18,000 first responders took at least 2 tests to measure lung health for this study. The Taliban says it officially has a hold over all of Afghanistan. Yesterday, the group announced that it had conquered the last province that was outside its control. Despite the defeat, opposition leaders vowed to continue their fight against the Taliban. Stick with us here on Montana This Morning. Still ahead.